Hi, I'm Kelly and welcome to Kapowski Reads. And this week I've been participating in the Spring Mixtape Readathon organised by Leanne from Literary Diversions, Jean from Jean's Thoughts and Amy over on Instagram as Amy Talks Books. This was just a really fun way to sort of end the spring season and get ready for summer, because I don't know about anybody anywhere else, but we are having a heat wave right now, so it's very much summer. It's summer now. I'm ready. I'm not happy about it, but I'm ready. So there was a bingo board and I have been ticking off my prompts and I'm ready to chat about them. I'm wearing a stripy top, so it makes me just so convinced that I have a stain on it, and I might do, I might not. It's clean on, it shouldn't be stained. I'm gonna go through the books, not in the order in which I read them, but from least favourite to most favourite, because this readathon was a huge success for me. I had I had 3 5-star reads, so that's pretty amazing, and it feels like it would be foolish to just sandwich my least favourite reads in the middle. Let's just start with those, work our way up. That sounds like the most sensible way of doing this. First up, I went for the middle prompt, which was to finish a soft DNF / a long book. And I kind of found a book that fit both of those prompts, because I finished Cursed by Marissa, Meyer. This is quite a chunky book. It's gorgeous though. And it's the second book in the Gilded duology. I absolutely loved Gilded. I gave that 5 stars. But this book I started reading in March and I put it down and I still had 200 pages left and I just didn't feel compelled to pick it back up. For anyone who's unsure of what the Gilded series is about, it is a Rumpelstiltskin retelling. You know, the really short Rumpelstiltskin story that has somehow been fleshed out into 1,000 pages worth of book. This is the second half of that story. And it features a young woman who has been cursed and her soul is kind of tethered to a castle, and she's just trying to break her curse to become human again and to free the spirits that are trapped in the castle. And I did not like this book. I did not like it. I liked maybe 10 pages of it, but I feel like this book didn't need to exist. I feel very strongly that Gilded could have been edited and, you know, chop off 100 pages and then condense this into 100 pages, because despite being 480 pages long, it didn't need to be. And I feel like that could have been added on to the end and it could have been a standalone. I found myself no longer loving characters that I used to love, because I was like, well, you had these abilities, you had these skills that we learned in the first book and you're not using them. And I feel you could be using them. I feel they'd be really helpful right now. And they just didn't. And I didn't like it. I did not enjoy it. I ended up giving it 1 star, but I did keep reading it and I did think a few times, should I just DNF it? But I genuinely wanted to know how it was going to end. And I was left really disappointed. It's a gorgeous book and a gorgeous first volume of the series, but this fell flat for me. No. So we're starting low, but don't worry, it gets better. The next book I read was Find a New Comfort Read, and I picked up the Jane Austen Book Club by Karen Joy Fowler. This was one of my sister's books, and she was somebody who would very sort of cautiously read the book, so very careful never to crack the spine. And when I got this book, there were a few little cracks in the spine, which let me know that this book had been read a number of times. So I thought, I want to read this. It's a book I think she really would have liked, and I wanted to see if I could find comfort in it too. This is just a book about a group who start a Jane Austen book club. They're all friends or acquaintances in some way, and we sort of see their lives mirrored in the Jane Austen book that they have been reading. I liked this book. I found it cozy. I found it quite heartwarming. I think that I would like to reread this book again, and I want to read it sandwiched between the Jane Austen books that are mentioned, because I think that that would add a little something to the reading experience. I started out really liking the characters, all of them, and then towards the end I think I only liked 2 of them. The rest had annoyed me. But that didn't put me off the book, if that makes sense. Like, I didn't need to love the characters at the end, I just needed to enjoy the journey, and I really did enjoy the journey. I found this to be comforting, and I think that maybe going forward this might be a comfort read for me, but I do want to try it with reading the Jane Austen books alongside, because it's been a really long time since I've read Jane Austen. I think I read a Jane Austen last year. I'm sure I read Sensibility last year, but it's ages since I've read Emma and Persuasion. So yeah, I think this I feel was a successful read. Next up, we are heading to our 5 stars. It's all 5 stars from here. Bottom right was to read a favourite author, and I ummed and ahed with this one because I've got a Lucy Foley that I haven't read yet. I wanted to do some rereading of This Poisoned Heart by Kaelan Bayron, but then I thought I really need to look at my TBR and make my way through my TBR before I start throwing other books onto it. At least try to read my TBR. So I had a little look, and on my TBR was an Agatha Christie. I love Agatha Christie. This book probably could have been a comfort read as well. They do it with Mirrors by Agatha Christie. This book is a murder mystery where Agatha Christie is visiting an old school friend, and there is a gunshot in a locked room. All is well though, that person's fine. What's not fine is that somebody in another room at another part of the house is alas no more, for they have been shot. And Miss Marple is on the case, she's looking into it, and I really enjoyed how everyone just thought she's just this doddery old lady. She's the owner of the home's childhood bestie, you know, just doddery wee old ladies, and they just underestimated her at every single turn. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was fun. There were red herrings galore, as is one of my favourite things in an Agatha Christie. All of the signs just kept pointing here, there and everywhere, and there were motives galore, and then just all of these reveals kept coming up, and it was almost overwhelming the amount of information at hand to try to work out who did it. And I have read this before. I've read this, according to Goodreads, twice, but I only started logging on Goodreads properly maybe 5 years ago. So I know it's more because I know I read it in the sort of pre-having internet readily available days. So I've read this a fair few times and I'd forgotten who did it. And I really enjoyed the journey trying to get there, because I was trying to put together the case, as I do so often when reading a murder mystery, and I just didn't know who it could be. I was stumped. So when the reveal came, it came back to my memory of like, oh yeah, I remember now. But getting there, I didn't see it coming, and I really enjoyed it. And I think that's why I love an Agatha Christie, is because I do read them so often. I kind of mix up the plots every so often. So even though I've read them before, it's almost a fresh read sometimes because I just don't remember who done it. But this was 5 stars last time I read it, and I gave it 5 stars again. It was fun. It was a fun book, and it kept me guessing, and it was quite short. It's only just over 200 pages, so a nice quick read. Then a book I've been putting off. And this book I have wanted to read for a really long time. I bought it in, I think, December. And it's on my 23 in 2023. And I really wanted to read it, but I was so worried that I wasn't going to love it. So I put it off, because that's a sensible thing to do. And I got to read it, and I loved it. She and Her Cat by Makoto Shinkai. I devoured this book in less than a day, finished it in like half a day. It's very short. It's only 150 pages. And it is about cats. It's about cats in Japan. It's a Japanese translated book about cats. And I have a great history with books that are translated from Japanese that are about cats. Every single one I've read has been highly rated, greatly enjoyed by me. So that was the fear of, is this going to be the first one I don't love? And no, it wasn't. This book is about a number of cats, of course it is, who live just outside of Tokyo in the same neighborhood. And it's about their relationships with the women who care for them. And all of their lives are intertwined. And I found this book to just be utterly heartwarming. I cried from page 1 of this book. Page 1 I was sobbing, and that crying only really progressed to a point where I had to put the book down because I couldn't see through my tears. And then I had to put the book down because I was getting a headache from crying. Then I had to hydrate so that I could then finish the book, because I think I had 20 pages left at this point, and I was a dry husk of a human. I had nothing left to give. But I started crying on page 1 where a woman found a cat in a box at a train station, and that cat didn't know why he was in a box, and he was sad, and then the woman saved him, but did he save her? And it was just beautiful stories of these cats finding people to love them, and the relationships that the cats had with each other because the cats knew each other. And I loved the way that the cats would talk to each other, and they would try and communicate with the people, but the people couldn't understand them, but the other cats could. And it was just so heartwarming and just lovely, and it was just so full of kindness. And my heart, my emotions so much. And I read the book, the entire book, just going, oh, what if one of the cats dies? I couldn't deal if one of the cats dies. I couldn't. No, I was a husk. And then in addition to the cats, we met a dog. I'm not really a dog person, but I loved this dog with every fibre of my being. And then I was worried about the dog. I thought this book was just exquisite. I'm so happy that I did read it. I didn't put it off for any longer. I thought it was wonderful. It was so beautiful, and it was emotional. But I'm a crazy cat lady, really am. I had to go out and hug my neighbour cat after reading this because I was sad, and I was like, oh, Mary, I just needed to pat a cat and feel better about myself. But I thought this book was exquisite. I really enjoyed it, and maybe this could end up being a comfort read. Now that I know what happens and I'm prepared for everything, I think that this book is only going to get better with rereads. I really feel that. I'm so glad I read it. And the final book, top left, was an anticipated read. This was actually the first book that I read, and I read this in 24 hours because I could not put it down apart from when I had to sleep because I was tired. Death of a Bookseller by Alice Slater. This is a dual narrative book. I wasn't expecting dual narrative, and I was delighted to find it. It tells the story of Roach. That's her surname. It all got revealed. I knew it would. She works in a bookshop, and she's not like other girls. She's not like other girls. She's not basic. She doesn't like normies. Think that's just most other people she refers to as normies. She sort of sees herself as an outsider. She doesn't have friends. She doesn't want friends. She's happy being a loner. She is happy just enjoying reading about true crime. But that all changes when Laura shows up at her work one day and is her new colleague. And Laura is effervescent and delightful. Everybody really likes her. And she writes poetry inspired by true crime, but from the point of view of the victims, to sort of give them a voice. So from this, Roach thinks, I found myself a bestie. I found myself a bestie. We both love true crime. And Roach then sets out to become best friends with Laura. However, Laura is not thinking the same way. Laura views Roach as a sort of ghoul because Laura, doesn't want anything to do with the murderers from true crime. She wants to give a voice to the victims instead. So they sort of have different interests in the same thing, if that makes sense. And what then happens is a quick spiral in this book into obsession on Roach's part, but also a descent into a paranoid mental breakdown for Laura. And I really enjoyed seeing each of the characters spiral really quickly. This book took place over a space of 3 months. So everything happened in 3 months and there was so much going on. I thought this book was so creepy, but more than that, I felt like this book, until it went just crossed the line a bit too much, I was like, oh, this is creepy, but I could see this happening. I could see it happening. And even when lines were crossed, I thought, I could see this happening. I could see me reading a newspaper article or documentary about the goings on of this book. It felt real and it felt scary because it felt so real. I really enjoyed the characters. I really, really did. I feel like I've known people who sort of have elements of, you know, each of the characters, and they just felt so realistic. And I would just like to say, I don't know if there was a meeting with authors, but it seems like at some point a bunch of authors have gone through my wardrobe and found clothes and accessories I own and decided to put them into books to scare me. I don't know when that happened because I'm rarely out of my house, but it seems like maybe it was a Zoom meeting. But this is the, I think, 3rd or 4th book that I've read this year where garments I own have featured in fiction, and it's really, really scary to see part of your own style in a book. In this example, there were clothes that Laura owned that I own, and Laura likes to match her beret to her shoes, and I like to match my beret to generally my outfit, but it was a little bit creepy. And I think that's what made it even more creepy a read for me. It was such a tense book that just featured my berets, and that was weird. My poor little hats featuring in this book. I also feel like the writing in this book was just perfection. I didn't tab the book because I was downstairs without my tabs, and I wasn't moving. I wasn't leaving my seat to go and get tabs. I was busy reading. So I took notes on my phone, and I've just got a whole list of quotations from this book that I thought was perfect. I absolutely loved this. This is my standout for this week. And I'm already worried about picking my favourite book for the month because I thought I'd already found it in one of my Scottish reads, which I'll be chatting about possibly next week or the week after. One of them. I thought I'd already found my favourite of the month, and now I don't know. I've got contenders. So it has been such a good week. I'm so happy. I'm so grateful to the organisers of the Mixtape Readathon because I've had the best week. I've had such a good time. So these are the books that I read this week. 1 week, 5 books, 19 stars. That is, I can't complain. Even though I really didn't overly enjoy this book, I should have DNF'd it. I really should have. I wanted to know, and I had hope in my heart. This was an excellent reading week. I am off to go and tick off some of the self-care prompts because I am really bad at doing self-care. I am planning to treat myself to some knitting time because I'm a cool person who knits socks. So that's my plan for later today. I'd love to know what you've been reading this week, if you've been participating in any readathons as well. Let me know because I'm nosy. Thank you so much for watching. Bye!